All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of Texans Unfiltered, a Houston football podcast for your Houston Texans. I am Young Ari Gold, and I am joined tonight by the lovely Patrick Storm. I totally forgot that John was going to be at Disneyland the entire week, and yeah, I don't know. I didn't think about it till today. Jair,
Hey, how's it going, man?
what up? How are you, brother?
Good, man.
Good.
Feels weird doing it on a Tuesday, but happy to be here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jair joined us right in the middle of me introducing Patrick Storm. So, Patrick Storm, what up?
Nothing, man. Just ready for Thursday. Let's see how things roll, and uh, you know, preparing for the worst and hoping for the best.
I think that's all we could do, really. That's all we could
Yep.
do. So Johnson Disney, follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at young Ari underscore gold. You can follow Patrick Storm at Patrick Storm TU, and you can follow Jair at JRLTU. So, all right, recap of the Browns game. I think the highs of the highs for the season, at least, right? So far, those were probably the highest highs the fan base maybe has felt since Kansas City, to be honest with you, in the playoffs. It was just shocking, right? It was shocking, just the way that we looked in the first half, and then the Browns come back and because Tyrod Taylor is hurt and doesn't return after the second half. I mean, after the first half. Storm, like, dude, what were you like? Where were you at? Like, what were you like? Sucks.
Yeah, man. Everything was going so great, and then just the injury bug just crept down that sideline and started biting everyone, and one after another almost started dropping, and it just my mood went from the Kansas City game is probably the closest thing that I could think of, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, we're in this thing. They've got this. Like they're playing really good. They're stopping the run. They're getting to Baker. They're making Baker make mistakes because Baker does make mistakes. They're finding holes in their defense. And then Tyrod goes down. Reed goes down. Tunsil misses a few plays. Just one after another, all these guys start falling, and it's just you could just see the team. If it's like as if you were watching the win probability chart, right? And you could just see it just shoot straight up to the Browns, like mid third quarter, and it was just that was all she wrote, man. And I mean, I get it. I didn't have them winning that game as part of my season prediction, but halfway through the second quarter, I thought they were going to prove me wrong, and I was all for it. It just, it sucks. It's just one of those things. That's football, man. It is what it is.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think Tyrod going down for the season. I think if you asked Texans fans in the offseason, probably wouldn't be they probably wouldn't feel the way that they feel today. But after watching him play week 1 and week 2, now it's like it's almost the equivalent to losing Deshaun that year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember who it was. Somebody, I think it was Clint Sterner, had tweeted out that he had like the highest QBR
through 6 quarters
through for the first half of the season out of all the quarterbacks in the league. And like you said, if you had asked me during the offseason if I thought Tyrod Taylor would be that guy, no, there was no way. I never expected Tyrod to be, a bottom 5 quarterback, but I never expected Tyrod to be, a top 5. And so it was a pleasant surprise, and it just kind of sucks. And hopefully this is a very short stint on the IR for him, and then he comes back and, picks up right where he left off.
Yeah, absolutely. Charlie, what were your reactions to the game?
Entering the game, I didn't feel the Texans had a really good chance against the Cleveland Browns, considering how good the defense was, and just seeing how Myles Garrett, he's just a really great defender on just in the league, but just seeing the way Laramie Tunsil just shut him down, and just the O-line overall. I mean, they played pretty good, considering they only allowed 1 sack in the whole game, which Davis Mills allowed. But it was a roller coaster seeing how they played in the first half, entering the second quarter, just seeing how Tyrod was playing. Like the Cleveland defense couldn't stop him, and just seeing that for a moment, I don't know, maybe at least me, I was like, man, this team might actually go 2-0. And obviously, like how y'all alluded to, the injury started happening. Amendola went out with a hamstring injury. Tyrod Taylor went out with a hamstring injury. So things just started like kind of like going off the rails heading into the second half.
Yeah, no, it was wild. I think, I mean, Tyrod has looked great, but then like the game plan, the play calling, like the way that Tim Kelly was, it was just it was really awesome just to see like things were going the way they were supposed to go based on the coaching staff and what we have. I think that was like nobody expected Tim Kelly to start getting nicknames like Tim Jelly and all these other things. Like that was not a thing by anybody.
Yeah.
Everybody thought he was just a puppet, and now everybody's like, "Oh, I'm so glad we kept Tim Kelly." It's like, where was that at?
Yeah, and just looking at the stats of Tyrod Taylor, like I have his stats for like the 1.5 games he did play with the Jaguars and the Browns. He went 31-44 for 416 yards, 70.5 completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, 55 yards, and a rushing touchdown. So he had no turnovers. He was just playing lights out football, which is pretty crazy considering our expectations heading into the season. Like, losing him is gonna be a big loss for this team. Like, not trying to like depress the fan base, but it just sucks seeing him, out for at least 3 to 4 weeks because he was just looking really comfortable with Pep Hamilton and David Coley and obviously Tim Kelly. He just looked really good.
Yeah. What did you think of the play calling, Pat?
And I loved it, man. They were mixing things up. And a lot of it didn't look, what's crazy is I don't think so much of it looked completely different than what we saw last year. More so is just the execution was better. Guys were executing better because they've been coached better in it all. We saw Philip Lindsay on the screenplay. We hadn't had that in forever since I think when Hopkins had the one a few years back where I believe it was against the Cowboys where he hit a couple spin moves and stuff like that. We hadn't had a screenplay go for that long. Usually it's 3-4 yards and the guy gets tackled, right? The run blocking still needs some work, but like the little the short pass that Tyrod had the other night for the touchdown and stuff like that, like they've tried that before and it's just never worked, and then they never went back to it. It's like they were afraid. But Tim Kelly was mixing things up so much, and I can't say for certain that it's all him, right? Pep could be there, is probably heavily involved in the game plan. David Culley being a former passing game coordinator and stuff like that is heavily involved in all that. I'm sure James Campen has some opinions on it and stuff like that, what his guys are really good at. They're just working as a collective unit right now, and it's working really good for this team. So I think the play calling itself was, it's been awesome, man. It's been a breath of fresh air, much like a lot of other things that have gone on so far this season. Looks like we lost James. He'll probably hop back in here in just a second.
The biggest thing I'm probably not concerned about, but just a curious stat is the running game. Because if you look at how it's been distributed, it's not really close. Ingram, he leads the team with 40 rushes through 2 games, and he's 16 in the league with 126 yards. So they've obviously seen him as the lead back in the first 2 games, and it's pretty crazy because he's 5th in the league in rushing carries. Which is 40 carries, which is pretty crazy considering he's already a 30-year-old back. So,
yeah, it's been they've done some things that have just been really unexpected. Like you said, Ingram being the lead back. Just everything, all in all, has just been really, really good. So we lost James. James just texted me saying he internet's cut out at his house. He's trying to get it fired back up real quick, so we'll just keep rolling with what we got. Unfortunately, James had all the show notes, so we're just gonna have to kind of wing it here. Okay. When in the game, the Browns game, what was the outside of Tyrod going down? What was the turning point for you? Where do you think everything just went wrong?
Not to be too pessimistic, but whenever Davis Mills came in, I feel like, I mean, obviously there's a few injuries in between that kind of shifted the momentum of the game. Mm-hmm. But just when Davis Mills came in, at least the defense in the first half, man, they were playing lights out. Justin Reed had that interception, and he also had that forced fumble, which Christian Kirksey recovered. The defense was all over the place. They were making the Browns uncomfortable in their own playing field. So, but in the second half, you kind of saw missed tackles because you saw the defenders. They were in the Cleveland Browns backfield, and they were getting to the running back. They were getting to both Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They were getting to them in the line of scrimmage, but they just couldn't finish through, make the contact, and they're just, they're two of the best running backs in the league for a reason, and they were just
absolutely,
turning the tough yards that they needed to just slow down the defense, and that pretty much was the last nail in the coffin for the Texans.
So I'm gonna mine. This might shock a few people. Mine was when Zach Cunningham came back into the game. So Zach doesn't play the entire first quarter. We heard it was for disciplinary reasons, right? And they say the reasons, all that stuff can be kept in house. That entire first quarter, those running backs weren't going anywhere. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, they're going to make it. Stefanski and his crew are going to make some adjustments to the run game because like you said, that's two of the best running backs in the league, right? Those guys are just. They're good. They're really good, and it's a deadly duo. If you get those two going, it's very hard to stop them. That offensive line in Cleveland is really good, and that takes a lot of pressure off of Baker. But when Zach came in, something changed, and they started teeing off, and it got worse in the third quarter, and then worse in the fourth quarter. I haven't looked at the box score to see like yards per quarter on what it was, but I know in the second half they had way more yards rushing than they did in the first half. Yeah. And I know Zach, I know we all like Zach and everything that he's done so far with his team, but something happened in that game that made them key on him, and they were just able to just get it going.
And I feel a big part in that game was they were trying to get the passing game going, but whenever Baker had that shoulder injury, mm-hmm. they pretty much doubled down on the running game, which was kind of bad for us because once they commit to the running game, it's hard to stop, especially considering how talented they really are. So mm-hmm. it was just it was unfortunate.
Yeah, and they wore down the front seven for the Texans. I mean, we've seen that front seven so far do a really decent job of getting pressure on the quarterback, getting into the backfield, some tackles for losses. Grugier Hill was all over the freaking place in that game. He's been kind of one of the really big shining spots for me out of that group. And so, yeah, And I can't blame it all on Zach because maybe it's a coincidence that's when everything started happening. That's when they made an adjustment. But it just felt like that just really stuck out to me. And to me, that was the turning point. That's where I kind of just feel things went south. So,
and the crazy part about that real quick is that he's the leading tackler for the Texans right now. He has 13 tackles throughout 2 games. So he's still reproductive on the box score, but just the momentum of the game, it wasn't the same.
Yeah. I mean, if we could get NFL Game Pass or League Pass, whatever it is, to put up the all 22, maybe we can go in and see what's going on. But they're dragging their feet, and we haven't had game film so far for 2 weeks. We didn't have it in the preseason.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just have to stick with the broadcast. One other thing I want to talk about. So this dynamic duo that Cleveland has of Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett was supposed to scare offensive coordinators, right, coming into the season. Myles Garrett is easily a top 3 pass rusher in this league, right? Like, that guy just gets after quarterbacks. He gets in the backfield. He wrecks hell on offensive lines. Okay. Jadeveon Clowney, we know what he is, and we know what he's capable of. We've seen it, and it's always come in flashes. It's always come in, his career is full of peaks and valleys. That was my biggest worry, was them going up against this offensive line. I know we saw in the first game of the season, the offensive line held up really well. They kept Tyrod clean, and all that stuff carried over to this week, and that was amazing to me. They didn't get a hand on the quarterback until Delpit came around the edge, and just laid Mills out. And I can't remember who the running back was in that play. I want to say it was David Johnson. I have to go back and watch it again, but I want to say that I'm not going to put that on Cannon, because Cannon had somebody over him.
Yeah,
I think the running back missed the block. I don't think he picked it up either, just like Mills didn't pick it up. So it was just like a collective failure. It was a really well drawn out play by the Browns to get to him. But for the fact of Marcus Cannon, Max Sharping, Justin Britt, Titus Howard, and Laramie Tunsil holding them to a total of 1 solo tackle, 1 tackle for a loss, and 2 quarterback hits and 0 sacks is pretty phenomenal. I think it's
it was really it was a defensive back blitz that really got the sack for the Browns. So that shows you how good they were at controlling the front 7.
Yeah. Dylan got it right. It was Rex Burkhead. That's right. That Rex could have, not so much just straight up block him, but at least chip him. Delpit just came in untouched. But all in all, the offensive line has been playing really well, especially in the passing game. Like I said earlier, the run game could definitely use some improvement. I don't like to get into Pro Football Focus grades, because I think it's a very, very bad way to measure talent and talk about a player's ability. But Marcus Cannon has played really, really well at the right tackle position, and so far has graded out this season better than Titus ever did in his first 2 years. So I think that this group this is how it's going to work. This is what we're going to see for the year. Hi, kids.
Hey.
So
I think it's pretty impressive, because this is a pretty brand new offensive line group. They really haven't had a lot of time to gel, because if you consider Laramie Tunsil, he was coming back from COVID. And also in the preseason, I believe it was Titus Howard and Rod Johnson. They were both sidelined because of close contact. So throughout the whole offseason, the O-line itself hasn't really had a lot of time to really get together and be a cohesive unit. And even in the first year, there's going to be a lot of miscommunication. So considering all of that, and seeing they've only allowed 2 sacks, and obviously the Davis Mills one, he could have done a better job delegating or speaking to the O-line or running back. Because I put that mostly on Davis Mills than the O-line. So they've done their part in really keeping the quarterback clean, and it's really up to Davis Mills and probably Tim Kelly to help out and make sure that he stays clean in the pocket and heading into the next weeks. And it's gonna be a tall task against Carolina, obviously.
I think they're going to have to roll into a Gary Kubiak, Kyle Shanahan style offense here, where when they do move him outside of the pocket, it's going to have to be bootlegs and some play action stuff, to where the defense has to respect the run game, and that they're going to key on some other things. That's one thing. Oh my goodness! And I mentioned this on Twitter during the game. Baker Mayfield can sell a play action fake so well. Like when he goes to fake like he's handing off the ball, he tucks that thing so well, and it fools me. And it fooled our defense so many times. And that's one thing that he does really well. I just had to bring that back up again. But yeah, so with Davis Mills, they gotta, they're gonna have, that's the type of stuff they're gonna have to do. They gotta get him on some bootlegs. Stuff where the defense has got to respect the run game, and get our tight ends involved a little bit more. We saw what Pharaoh Brown is capable of in week 1. That's the reason why he was a starting tight end week 1. Jordan Akins has got the ability. Hopefully we can see Brevin this week. But I know they did. So that was one move they made today, was getting Anthony Auclair signed off the practice squad to the 53-man roster, with putting Tyrod and Nico on the injured reserve. So,
and they also have Amendola out this week with the hamstring injury.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a bunch of new guys heading into the next couple of weeks. And I was just going to point out real quick, it's pretty crazy, but looking at the receiving yard stats throughout the first 2 games, obviously it's going to be different going from Tyrod to Davis Mills, 2 different quarterbacks, 2 different style of plays. But the only player with triple-digit numbers in the receiving category is Brandon Cooks with 210 yards, which is 5th in the league. And then all the way down, the next receiver with the most yards is obviously Pharaoh Brown, who has, I believe, 67 yards. So from here on out, we're going to have to do a better job. The margin for error for mistakes it's very small. From here on out, we're going to have to really get other people involved besides Brandon Cooks. Because if they take out, if a good defense like Carolina takes out Brandon Cooks, we're going to need someone else to, pass the ball to, which is maybe Chris Conley, as you said, Pharaoh Brown, include the running backs in the passing game like David Johnson, some short screens like Phillip Lindsay. Just get creative and make easy reads, easy throws for Davis Mills to get completions and easy yardage.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, they're going to have to simplify the offense. Davis said that when he came in that the game plan never really changed against the Browns. I don't buy it, because the first couple series they didn't have, they weren't throwing the ball as much. I think they were trying to definitely get the run game going, but it was just one of those things where it looked like the game plan changed dramatically. And so hopefully this week with some, and unfortunately it's a short week, so he's not getting real reps with the ones. They're just doing walkthroughs. So I think that hopefully just some time and talking with these guys, maybe they're doing some side work with some light route running and stuff like that, where you can kind of develop some timing with them. It'll come with time, right? Like, he's a rookie quarterback. He was drafted in the 3rd round for a reason. He only played 12 games in college or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's going to take time. He's a project. Unfortunately for the Texans, the project had to start middle of week 2 because of an injury. And so hopefully he can keep it together and keep the ship steady until Tyrod can come back. By all means, if he goes in there and just blows us away, I'm all for it. I'd be really happy to see, and I'm excited to see what Pep Hamilton can do with them. We've seen what Pep Hamilton has done with rookie quarterbacks in the past, or just any quarterback in general. I mean, he's one of the most respected quarterback coaches in the league for a reason. He took Justin Herbert last year when coincidentally Tyrod got hurt, and turned him into a really, really good quarterback. So I think you made the point where he's coached Andrew Luck, he's coached Chris Hogan. He's coached some guys in the years, and he knows what he's talking about. And let's just see if that can carry over to Davis Mills. So,
and for me, the biggest thing is I'm all behind the reason why they drafted a quarterback in this draft, because I've seen throughout Twitter and just the radio, people are upset that we drafted a quarterback in the 3rd round, but I mean, it's not like we just drafted one player in the 3rd round. We still got Nico Collins, so it's not like we just wasted a 3rd round draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, it pays off now that we drafted a quarterback because in this type of situation, he's gonna have plenty of time, reps, snaps to see what he has to offer. Because to be honest, as much as Tyrod Taylor has impressed me, and how much he's overachieved to a certain point, like no disrespect to him, we knew he wasn't gonna play all 16 games. I think sooner or later we knew Davis Mills was going to get on the field, and obviously it's not beneficial that it was so early on, but it's a blessing and a curse. It gives us a chance to see what he can really do. Because I used to be an old fashioned type of person and think that a quarterback would be best to just sit out and learn. But a quarterback like him, he's had enough learning, off the field. Like, he's a pretty smart person overall. He needs game time, and obviously, it wouldn't have mattered next year if there was a franchise quarterback prospect and the Texans had the ability to draft one. Having Davis Mills wouldn't have mattered. It would have been common sense to draft that franchise quarterback prospect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good to see him play early on and see what he has. And obviously it's not all rainbows and stuff like that. There's going to be growing pains watching Davis Mills play. I mean, we saw in the preseason, he finished the preseason with 31 of 65 completions, 40, which was 47.7% completion rate, and 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So there's going to be a lot of times want to pull your hair out seeing a young quarterback. It's part of the process. Even Deshaun in his first game in Thursday Night Football against the Bengals, he didn't look amazing. Besides that one play that he had, that 50-yard touchdown run,
Mm-hmm.
he looked pretty average as a passer. So it's pretty much the same thing with Davis Mills for his upcoming game against Carolina, a really good defense. There's going to be moments that we're going to be really mad of seeing him play, but it's part of the process.
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. This team, while we had hoped after week 1 and what we started to see through the first 2 quarters of week 2, really surprised a lot of people. And so if maybe Davis Mills is another one of those surprises where, he can put some stuff together and do what we would hope Tyrod would do and just manage the game, right? Not turn the ball over, spread the ball around to multiple receivers, several handoffs, get different guys involved, and just manage the game, right? Don't beat yourself, right? That's one thing this team has been doing a very good job of, is not beating themselves. The week 1, we saw, almost no penalties. Sunday, we saw quite a few more. We saw some offsides. We saw some false starts. We saw some holdings, stuff like that we didn't see in week 1. Now, granted, you're playing a little bit better caliber football team in the Browns than you are the Jaguars. So things are going to be a little bit different. And guys are going to be trying a lot harder to, protect the quarterback or, to make sure that a play happens type of stuff. And so you're going to have those mistakes. And every team has them. Let's be real. Every team has penalties. But all in all, they were still executing well, and they were doing things the right way. And I think that's one of the things that can help this team be a respectable team throughout the year. And I'm not saying playoffs or anything like that, but I'm saying maybe a just over 500 team is just executing well. Just like we saw on the screen pass to Lindsey. Max Sharping released outside. And I want to say, I can't remember who the other was. That Auclair was with them down the sideline. But Max played that so well. He stood at the line. He waited for, he stuttered, released outside, waited for Lindsey. He didn't, if you go back and you watch the play, he didn't just take off down the field right? He waited for Lindsey to make sure Lindsey could get behind him and nobody would sneak up behind them and take Lindsey out. And so that way he was that wall going down the field. That was great execution. The defense, they have been tackling better. They had some spurts in the Browns game where they were tackling like the Texans of last year, where it was just a bunch of arm tackling and stuff like that. So just playing sound fundamental football can help this team a lot. And if Davis Mills can do that, if Davis Mills can play sound fundamental football, he can help this team, be competitive. I think. I really do.
Yeah, and to add to that real quick, a big reason why there's little to no penalties in the first game was that we were playing at home. And then obviously traveling to Cleveland, it's a hostile environment. It's hard to make the right calls. The fans are very rowdy. So it's natural for a brand new team with so many new players to have these type of miscommunications or probably mental mistakes. We obviously don't want them, but it's part of the process. And I'm not gonna make this I'm not gonna praise. I don't want it to sound like a compliment, but Davis Mills didn't completely crap the bed against the Browns. Yes, he made mistakes. Yes, he got lit up with the Delpit blitz, but he finished with a touchdown and 1 interception in one half. Against a really good defense. So I would take that, considering he was playing for his debut on the road, and considering how much he struggled in the preseason. Things could have been a lot worse. So I'm not trying to be optimistic and tell the fans that this upcoming game there's going to be a win, because it's a rookie quarterback against a very good defense. But you're having Davis Mills and the whole team play at home in a safe environment. The fans, for the most part, they're going to be on your side. They're not going to be making all the havoc that they were making like in Cleveland. So there's certain components that make it possible for them to play sound fundamental football, considering they're playing at home. They know the environment, and it might help.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that, and he wasn't that bad, right? I said some things during the game. They have no confidence in him to pass the ball, stuff like that. And I was just on the spot judgment calls of what I'm seeing, the play calls and stuff like that. They may have just been trying a few things out. So it'll depend. Hopefully they can put a package together for him that allows him to go out there and go up. Let's be real, this Panthers defense is a really good defense also. So he's going to have to be on his A game, not make mistakes, and do what go out there and do what's asked of him. And I wouldn't be opposed to sending Cooks down on a seam route or something like that. Farrell on a seam route, something like that, because we know he's got the arm. And let him sling it a few times and see what he's got. The cohesion and the timing with his wide receivers and the backs and stuff like that is all going to come with time. And like you said, he didn't go out there and crap the bed, right? Like, he didn't go out there and just do absolutely awful. He didn't go out there and throw, was it 4 interceptions that Zach Wilson threw against the Patriots?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was hoping and praying that somehow we could have moved up in the draft to draft that kid. And God, man, he has not lived up to the hype. And Trevor hasn't lived up to the hype. I think, honestly, it's crazy because Mac Jones has been the one that I was like, really on the fence about, wanting to trust an Alabama quarterback. But Mac Jones has played the best out of all these kids that were drafted in the the first round and second round and stuff like that. So, and then there's Davis Mills. So we'll see. We probably won't see Kellen Mond, so that's not really fair to say that he hasn't lived up to anything because we haven't seen him. So, but anyway, all right. So we put the Browns in the rearview mirror and we're moving on. We got Carolina Thursday night, prime time. Davis Mills getting his first career start. What's one key thing outside of protecting the ball is it that this team has to do to be able to win this game?
For me, it's probably the defense. If they can replicate what they showed in the first game against Jacksonville and the first half against Cleveland, they have a really good shot of at least keeping this a low score game, which is the best you can ask for if you want to win the game, which is pretty. It's not the most attainable thing, but if we're speaking in hypotheticals, as long as this is a low score game, we're gonna be in it. Especially we're playing at home. I go back to that, and for me, that was a big reason why I had this as a win before the season started. I feel like home field does play a factor, and even though losing Tyrod hurts a lot, they still have some pieces, and I feel pretty confident because for most of these games this season, from a talent perspective, we're going to be overmatched. So it's going to come down to coaching and like who can be the better coach. And in this game, I mean, last game, Kevin Stefanski, he was a second year head coach. Against the Jaguars, he was a rookie head coach, and against the Panthers, he's a second year head coach. So these head coaches, they're not completely seasoned. Obviously, Matt Rule did a really good job in Temple of creating a good culture, good environment for the players, and he's doing a pretty good job here. But it's still a relatively young head coach on both sides of the football. So whoever wins the coaching battle, whoever makes the less mistakes, it kind of sounds like Captain Obvious, but
that's typically the team that wins. Yeah. I think I saw it in there a few times. It's containing Christian McCaffrey. I think if they can contain Christian McCaffrey, then that's going to make everybody's day a lot easier on the defense. But that comes with it's kind of a double-edged sword. Because if you contain him, you still got to worry about the receivers, and the receivers are really good at getting deep, and getting past the secondary. And so I feel like you got to kind of pick your poison with them, and like, where do you want them to beat you at, right? And I still have very big concerns about the secondary, especially with Justin Reed being banged up. All signs are pointing to him playing, apparently. So we'll see. If he can't go, then we're going to have to deal with Lonnie and Eric Murray on the back end. Vernon on the outside, for whatever reason, he's still playing on the outside. I don't get it. Desmond King. Terrence Mitchell is dealing with a concussion, I believe, right? He's in concussion protocol.
Yeah.
So they're pretty banged up. We may see Jimmy Moreland this week. I don't know. It's the secondary is what scares me this week. Robbie Anderson, we know, is still really good. Moore is still really good, or is really good. And we've seen what Sam can do. Sam Darnold can sling the ball. And with Joe Brady and Matt Rule at the helm over there, I feel like that's one person I've been really excited to watch this season, just to kind of see how he's going to adjust with that type of coaching over there, getting out from Adam Gase and stuff like that. So, we get to see it firsthand Thursday night at NRG, and it'll be kind of cool to see.
To add to that real quick, I'm not really confident about our secondary either, because pretty much it's going to be Tremont Smith, Vernon Hargraves, Desmond King, Moreland. Perhaps we bring up the cornerback that we got from the Eagles a while back in the practice squad. Like, it's going to be a really worrisome group overall. But I feel the front seven, besides the second half that they just lost contained. They just could have been injuries, could have been anything that they just weren't the same from the first half. But overall, they've done a good job. The front seven has Christian Kirksey. I mean, in the first game he had an interception. This second game he had a fumble recovery.
Mm-hmm.
They're making plays. They're being around the ball. Obviously, who knows how sustainable it's going to be in this upcoming game. But I've seen enough encouraging signs from the deep, at least from the front seven, that it at least is some optimism. Obviously, I'm not expecting a top 10 defense, but if they make a few turnovers, if the front seven can get to Sam Darnold a little bit, maybe we have a decent game, an enjoyable game at least.
Yeah, and that's all we can hope for, man. Is going into these games, especially against a team like this, is just hoping that it's close and it's competitive and it's fun to watch, and you could take the good with the bad, and build on it and move on to the next week. It's going to suck not having Amendola. It's going to suck not having Nico. It's certainly going to suck not having Tyrod, and hopefully guys like Justin Reed and Laramie are 100% and can go, and not have any setbacks. And just go out there and play a good football game. That's all I care about, honestly, at this point, is just watching a good football team, or guys go out there and just put on a good product, put a good product on the field, do what's asked of them. And we've seen through 2 weeks now that the coaching staff has these guys right. I mean, let's be real. This, I know it's very premature, and it's kind of hard to say this because of some of the guys that have left Houston and gone on to do what they've done. Obviously, Kubiak left Wade Phillips, and they won the Super Bowl in Denver. Kyle Shanahan has gone on to do some really good things out in San Francisco. Dom Capers left, and he's been up in Green Bay, and they've been doing their thing up there for years. I feel like this may be collectively probably the best coaching staff this team has ever fielded. And I think that's going to go a long way this season. I think people put a lot of weight on the head coach position, and more than is necessary. I think David Culley is obviously, he's the man in charge. He's the guy running things. But we've heard nothing but praise about this guy from the players and things like that, about how the environment is, how he's coaching them, how he's concerned about them as people, as individuals, as players. And then in the middle of the game, who was it that was down? Somebody was down, and he went out there to check on them, and happens to be standing right next to Justin Britt and just lays into him in the middle of the field on national television. And it's just like, we never had that before, right? Like, he held him accountable right then and there on something that they potentially screwed up on. And I think that's just huge, man. Like, we haven't had that ever. And I think if that can continue, this team they can build some decent things and do some decent things against teams like Carolina, against teams like the Jets, against teams like the Patriots and the Chiefs and the Colts and the Titans. By the way, the Titans are trash. That was a fluke win the other night.
I was so mad.
Seattle. That was such a fluke win.
And it's the crazy part, man. Every team lost besides the Tennessee Titans, but we're still pretty much in first place. I mean,
they are. The Texans are technically in first place right now, because their win was an in-division win, and the Titans won against an out-of-division opponent. So Texans are in first place. Who thought their week 2 would be saying the Texans are in first place? They're one game out of the first seed and a bye week in the playoffs. So we're gonna roll with it. It's facts. Like, nobody can tell me otherwise right now. All right, so.
Do you want to talk about the Coley brain fart? Yeah,
let's talk about it, because he admitted he screwed up, right? And in the game, so it was third and
10. Yeah, 3rd and 12 around there.
3rd and 12. And it was a 10-yard penalty, so it would have moved us up to 4th and 2, or decline it and stay at 3rd and 12, right? And then you run another play and try to see where you're at, or you accept the penalty and you go for it on 4th down, right?
Yeah.
He screwed up. And everybody knew it immediately. Even Kevin Stefanski, if you go back and watch the broadcast, Kevin Stefanski's like, it's not like a real obvious showing, but he's just like what the?
Yeah, it was
what?
pretty funny.
Like, what? Okay. And who was it? It was someone. He had another coach with him right there next to him, and I can't remember. It was
a special teams coach. It was Frank Ross.
Okay, so Frank Ross was right there with him, and that may have led to it. Frank may have been talking about something completely different. He may have been talking like, "Hey, let's go for it on 4th down." He's got the ref barking at him. He's got his own thought process going on. He's got somebody in his ear probably talking to him. It is what it is, right? Like I said at the beginning of the show, it is what it is. At the end of the day, he screwed up, and it did not help the cause. At the end of the game, they would have been in a much better position. I feel like going for it on 4th and 2. I think they could have gotten the first down. I think they were doing a really good job of getting the backs to get 2-3 yards on every play, or even just a short little dump pass to Cooks or one of the tight ends or something. And then in the press conference the next week he owns it.
Yeah.
Right. That's not something we've ever seen before. It's something they've always kind of danced around it, and they give you some bullcrap answer of, oh, well, in the situation we felt that was what was better for the team. Culley said point blank, like, he screwed up. Like, he should have, he would have gone back and accepted the penalty. It sucks, man. But first year head coach, there's a lot going on. His explanation, I feel like, was a little bit too many words, right? Like he got flustered in trying to explaining it to everybody, right? I get the premise behind what he was trying to say, but he admitted that he screwed up. That's great. I love it. They're going to move on from it. It'll be a learning experience for him to move forward. He maybe is Pep's up in the box, right? Pep's not on the sideline, or
I think
Kelly,
Nick Casario. I think
where's Tim at?
He's in the sidelines. Yeah,
and Lovey's on the sideline.
Yeah.
I thought they were saying that they were going to have somebody was going to be up in the box.
It was Nick Casario who was supposedly going to be in the press box, but in his past interview he had with the Texans, he was saying that he's not going to make every trip with the Texans. So I think for sure this upcoming game he's going to be in the press box.
Okay, so
but just going back to the go ahead.
Maybe he keeps Tim a little bit closer to him, or maybe he keeps a guy like Pep a little bit closer to him, and for situations like that, to where he can, they could talk about it real quick, like, hey, what do you think we should do? Like the collective effort and stuff like that, and that way next time if this situation arises, they they don't have another blunder like this, right? So it's a learning experience, man. It's going to happen.
Exactly. The most optimistic thing I can say about the whole thing, the whole outcome, was that in the next play, Justin Reed got the interception, and then we went on to score. So in a way, we still scored. Obviously, he should have done the right choice from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Justin Reed saved them, and so did the offense. But hopefully, like you said, it's a learning experience, and not every single time the defense is going to be able to bail him out if he makes these mistakes. So hopefully he learns from this. But I do like the transparency that he has. It's a breath of fresh air compared to Bill O'Brien and his answers. Yeah. So I do like that about Culley overall.
Yeah, I'm this close. I'm this close to being 100% sold on him. It's still a little early for me, but I think that he's definitely doing everything right. He's doing everything right now. And it's just hard not to like the guy. His press conferences are so nice, and he's always in a good mood. He doesn't ever seem like he's pissed off or he's got a grudge or anything like that. The way he talks to the media and stuff like that, he does a really good job. The players speak very highly of him, both on camera and off camera. So it's nice, man. I'm really close. I think we'll see how things go this week. But we're heading in the right direction. I think we're gonna get there too. You know, and he's assembled a hell of a staff, man. You got Pep Hamilton, Lovie Smith, Tim Kelly was retained, Frank Ross, like just all these guys, James Campen, Robert Prince, James Campen. Like this is a really good staff, and so I think that's making a big difference. I don't think we expected it to work out this well, so I'm excited, man. I really am. I wasn't this excited going into the season. I may not look like it right now, but I'm still not all here. But I'm excited, man. It's going to be a fun season for sure. Yeah. And we get primetime week 3.
That's crazy.
It's pretty cool, especially coming off of a 4-win season, right?
And you can kind of tell, like, I mean, I feel like no one really believed in the Texans. Even, I guess, us to a certain extent. Like, we understood the process, and it made sense to a certain extent. But even, like, the commentators, Gumbel and the other guy from CBS, of quite a few times in the Cleveland game, they were saying, "Oh, this is a really good game." Like they were kind of like you could kind of tell from their demeanor, the way they were speaking, they were pretty surprised. So this whole season, you know, it was awesome that we were winning games or that we look as good as we do. But to be honest, obviously winning is always a priority for the players, and they all believe that. But just the way we've been moving, or at least Nick Caserio, the way he's been moving, this was never a playoff team per se. You know, they've been coached well enough in the first 2 games that they look competitive, and they're giving us the illusion that we're a playoff team. But obviously, a few injuries or anything, and we were going to be back to what we really were. In a certain way, I feel right now we're overperforming. And you know, heading up to this game, hopefully the coaching and everything can make us still a competitive team. You know, enjoy the game. But I feel like week 3, we're really going to see kind of what we kind of feared in a way that this team was going to be if injuries happen or whatever. But in a way, it's still a learning experience for some of the young players. You know, Davis Mills, he's a young player. He's going to be able to play. You know, obviously, I would wish Scotty Phillips or other young players were on the field, but that's not the case. Caserio, he's kind of gone, you know, in depth and how he sees the practice squad and the active roster, and he pretty much just kept Scotty Phillips on the active roster because he was too good to put on the practice squad. He was gonna get poached. But who knows? Maybe a trade or an injury, and he's in the game. Maybe not this week, but maybe in the future weeks. And at least, I guess the silver lining is that we have Anthony Miller, who's going to finally see some playing time. And he kind of tweeted before the Cleveland game that he was already ready to play. So that's a reassuring sign. Just seeing players and young players and, you know, potential players that we can retain beyond this year and see how they look.
Yeah, for sure. And one player that I do not want them to retain after this year, I don't even want him on the team right now, is Andre Roberts. I just think the guy is worthless, honestly. Like, I had like immediate PTSD flashbacks to Keyshawn Martin trying to return the ball, Trendon Holiday. Oh my God, who else back there? Tyler Irvin. Yeah, the coach's kid, Tyler Irvin. Like, man, it's just like not so much the Jacoby Jones, like the muff punt return. Like, I get it, like, but then it's just like the guy has no vision, man. Like, he's just running into people. He's running into the pile. He's running into his blockers. Maybe Ross has got to do a better job of coaching these guys up on getting lanes open for him or something like that. But holy, like, he's a waste of a roster spot.
It's just crazy.
Return specialist should never be a thing on an NFL team. You're not Devin Hester. You're not Baltimore Ravens, Jacoby Jones, because God, that still pisses me off. But like, just
I'm not
fire
trying
him.
to justify. I'm not trying to justify him, but
he's like 36, right? He's 36. How old is he?
He's like 33, 34.
God.
Last year, to his credit, he was a second team All Pro returner, but he was already kind of on his last legs when it comes to that age, kind of. And obviously, when you're a return specialist and you don't really play receiver, it's kind of frustrating. You have to be that much better as a returner to like really justify that spot. And I'm kind of trying to like be patient because I'm a very patient person. I try to be very understanding, at least to the point that he was coming from that knee surgery during the preseason. Like he had no playing time. Like, and obviously he's a veteran, so that's not really an excuse. And it was just frustrating because I feel like he was trying to overcompensate after the fumble. Like he was just trying to make a big play on special teams, and he just made it worse.
Yeah.
So hopefully he looks better this upcoming week. But
real quick, and Corey, it's not because just the one mistake, man. It's because I feel like there's such, especially now when you got Nico Collins and Amendola both out with an injury, and you've got a guy that is a self-proclaimed return specialist, and he's a self-proclaimed not a wide receiver. That like right now this team needs wide receivers, and I feel like he should be the one that gets the axe to make room for another wide receiver, whether it be Jordan Vesey, whether it be John Brown. They sign a free agent, John Brown, or any of those other guys that are out there. That's my thing. Like I just feel like that's what needs to happen. That is the guy that needs to go. I just don't think he doesn't bring enough to the table for me to warrant being on this roster. Much like Rex Burkhead. I don't think they should have Rex Burkhead. There's a couple guys that I could go down the list and say that I just don't think that they need to be on this team because they serve no purpose. Like there's no like big benefit to them being on this team. So that's my gripe with them, Corey. Not just because of the muff point, not at all. And
I do feel to a certain extent those are the first players that might go whenever all these players from the IR come back. We got Kaimi Fairbairn. He's coming back next week potentially. AJ Moore, he might come back next week at the earliest. I have the list right here, but we have a lot of players on the IR that are going to be coming back in the next couple of weeks. So this roster is going to be completely different than what it is right now. Like we got so many players coming up and down. We got Jordan Vesey and Chris Moore. They're getting potentially elevated to this game. So those are two receivers that don't really count towards their active roster, but they'll be elevated this game and potentially the next game. So we do have options on the roster at receiver at least. They've been throughout this preseason. So I do understand that they might be patient with Roberts right now, but if he doesn't look any better than what he has looked early on, then you might really consider, moving on. Because, like I said earlier, if you're a specialist, you have to be that much better.
Yeah.
Or else, what are you doing on the roster? And I feel this coaching staff is smart enough to not just keep a player just because we have money tied into him. Like Shaq Lawson, or like money's not going to be an issue this year. If you're not good, they're gonna kick you out. Like money's not a factor this year. It's about who's actually performing, or at least that's what the impression is early on.
For sure. Let's talk about Shaq Lawson real quick. Shaq Lawson leaves Houston, goes to New York, and says, I can finally be who I'm supposed to be up here, or whatever it is, right? So he has 7 combined tackles, 0 sacks on the season.
Even Merciless has a sack, so that kind of shows you how.
Who are you then? Who are you, Shaq Lawson? Because you haven't. I don't know. You just Shaq Lawson.
And they were trying to point that like, Easterby and
man. Not
like
at all.
I just feel like I'm not even trying to like speak bad about a player who's not even here anymore. Like, but I just feel he was bitter that he just wasn't. Yeah.
I hate it when they leave and they get on social media and they start crying. Like, hey, bro.
Yeah.
you didn't do a good enough job, like, or you're just not in the plans of this team, or you screwed up, or whatever. At the end of the day, you're still rich. Like, you're getting paid a lot of money to go play football.
Because Casero even did him a favor, but by restructuring his contract, because he had no guaranteed money, so he got $7 million just being here. So like, why would he complain?
Exactly. Yeah.
The Texans did him a favor, and then you see how Randall Cobb and Bradley Roby, they leave the Texans, and they don't speak bad about the Texans. They're like, they understood in what spot the Texans are in right now, and they know that the Texans are rebuilding. They understood, and they, in a way, appreciated the fact that Casero put Randall Cobb back in Green Bay, and he put Bradley Roby back in a contender somewhat in the Saints. So it's two teams that
Can we talk about Randall Cobb real quick?
Sure.
He has 4 receptions for 58 yards.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers had to have this guy back, right? Like,
No, we appreciate it though. We got that 6th-round pick.
So. For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I'll take the 6th-round picks all day long for these guys that, that are going elsewhere and doing absolutely freaking nothing. So it's cool at the end of the day. Like, it's just hopefully Roby is gonna. Did he play this week?
I think he did.
Did he? I didn't.
I think Lattimore was out, right? Because he got that. Yeah.
So good for Roby. I hope Roby's always been a really great guy. Talked to him a few times, and hopefully everything works out for him, right? Like, I got no hard feelings for him. He hasn't said anything about the team publicly. Like, did Roby got a sack? Well, look, see, but still, I think that
more sacks than Shaq Lawson.
Bradley, and that's why we got a better deal for him. That's why we got the 3rd-round pick, because he gets more sacks than Shaq Lawson. So even though Shaq Lawson's paid to do that. All right, so we're right at about the hour mark. Actually, we just rolled the hour mark. As you can hear, my kids are in the background going nuts. But
does the chat have any questions before, like as always?
Let's do some questions real quick. We got maybe about 5 minutes. James never made it back. He's dealing with internet outages in his area.
ERCOT or whatever.
I don't know, man. David asked, Patrick, what do you think about Andre said about Nick? David, I don't know. I didn't see what he said. If you
it was positive.
Was it?
Yeah, he just said he liked the moves he was making. So, and I think that's a big difference than earlier on when he was saying about Eastery and all that stuff. And obviously, I'm not a big Eastery fan myself, but the fact that he's kind of, I guess, somewhat bought in, that he sees the Texans are somewhat competitive and they're doing stuff the right way. Besides the Deshaun Watson situation, which is kind of tricky, kind of dicey. They're still paying him. He's still keeping a roster spot, but they're still doing right by the players. They're not, for the most part, which is somewhat of a plus.
For sure. I'll go back and look at it, David, and I'll give you an answer. Shoot me a DM, and I'll answer you there. What's up with Fuller?
He's back.
That's if that needs to come out, that'll come out, but it's not something that really needs to be talked about publicly. It's nothing. I mean, he needed some time to handle some things, and he did that, and so we'll see. That's see realistic expectations for Mills. 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and takes 2 sacks. I'm gonna write that down real quick so I can come back to it. What did I say? 220?
Yeah,
220.
2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 2 sacks.
1 INT, and it will not be a pick 6. Okay,
that would be so demoralizing.
2 sacks. I'm gonna write that down. Well, we can revisit it next week.
I would probably say, maybe like 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and maybe like 50% completion. I don't see him being too efficient. For the most part, throughout the preseason in the first game, he hasn't really been a really efficient quarterback. I feel it's gonna be like a lot of trials and errors, like that Brandon Cooks incompletion that he had against Cleveland. That's the frustrating thing about him because he has the arm strength, but sometimes accuracy is not his thing. But he's not a Ryan Mallett either. Like, he's not just gonna like miss every single throw.
God, Ryan Mallett was terrible.
Yeah,
Ryan Mallett could miss his alarm clock if it was sitting right next to him. Let's see. What happens if Mills gets hurt? Then we get Jeff Driscoll, man. Cully mentioned something about Mark Ingram and the Wildcat too, which I mean, hell, if we get to the point and that's it, then let's do it. Let's go have some fun. I'd love to see Mark Ingram out there trying to sling the ball around occasionally too.
And they showed that in the first game. That's how Phillip Lindsay scored. So they had Ingram and Lindsay in the backfield. And also, I wouldn't be surprised if Tim Kelly tries to be a little bit creative. I was kind of joking about it on Twitter, but if Jeff Driscoll, if he's putting certain plays, in the red zone, which sounds kind of cringy, but he can probably run with it, or it's a run or pass situation, stuff like that. He might be a little bit creative because I do want Davis Mills to have some responsibility on some stuff on his plate, but at the same time, you don't want to overwhelm him. Maybe switch it up a little bit, be a little bit creative. Make the game plan kind of fun for the players. Confuse the defense because this is going to be a really good defense. So you never know. Just making a few trick plays might shift the momentum and maybe create some good plays.
Yeah. So what if Driscoll, Mills, and Taylor get hurt? Then Cam Newton will be signed. Is there any chance they try and bring back Josh McCown to back up after this week? Absolutely freaking not. Absolutely freaking not. Y'all seen pictures of Jack Easterby out there slinging it? Let's get Jack out on the field. Sign him to a 2-week contract or something like that. So
kind of like that soccer player from that you showed. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, cool. We're gonna wrap it up right there, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. As always, sorry James couldn't make it through the whole show. But technology is sometimes out of our control. If you guys please like the stream, it's a free way to support us. It's it helps the channel grow tremendously. Tell your friends and family about us, please. If they're into the Texans, if they like to dunk on the Texans, whatever it is, every listen is always a positive. Every view is always a positive for us, regardless of your affiliation. Give Jair a follow, JRLTU on Twitter. Always interesting information that he's digging up, whether it be player connections to past coaches and stuff like that. John A. Wade 3. John is in Disney this week with his kids, or his son, I'm sorry. And so he's out there having a blast. James, I am Young Ari Gold. Jordan is Texans_thoughts. Jordan had dinner with his parents tonight, and he also had 2 Panthers podcasts that he had to hop on. So that was pretty cool. Jordan's out there doing big stuff. He's working for SI now. Still making time for us. But and last but not least, my name is Patrick Storm. You can follow at Patrick Storm TU. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will not be doing a show on Friday, and so your next one will be coming out on Tuesday. We'll see you guys later. Gotta go get these kids to bed. Bye-bye.